My name is Grace Chandler. I'm 34 years old. I live alone in a downtown Denver condo with gray-streaked ceilings and windows that don't quite shut right when it rains. The place still carries pieces of him even after 2 years. Some of them by design. Others, like this ache in my ribs today, just show up when they feel like it. It's quiet this morning, the kind of stillness that feels borrowed. The city is beginning to thaw, snowmelt dripping from balcony railings, thin sunlight slanting in over my living room floor. I haven't drawn the curtains yet. I haven't turned on the news. My tea is cooling beside me on the nightstand. The cup is floral chipped slightly on the rim, and I've used it every March 21st since the world cracked in half. I don't cry today, not anymore. That part is over. What lives in me now is different. It has learned how to make room for grief without leaking all over everything. It's been 2 years. 2 years since Reed collapsed in front of Pine and Press Cafe, the one we always joked about because the coffee was terrible, but the staff remembered his name. He was carrying takeout and a lemon tart I didn't ask for. It was supposed to be a surprise. The voicemail still lives in my phone. I don't play it, but I don't delete it either. I get up slowly, stretch my arm, reach for the second drawer in my nightstand. Always the second drawer. My hand knows the motion by now. It's where the velvet box sits. Sat. The drawer opens. I pause. The box is not there. I blink and then open the drawer wider, thinking maybe it slid to the back. I push aside a packet of tissues, a melted chapstick cap, a folded bill I forgot to pay. No box. I kneel, check the bottom drawer. Nothing. Not even the ring cloth. At first, I'm not even scared. Not yet. Just off balance. Like when you take a step and expect the ground to meet you, but it doesn't. I open the closet, rummage through the bins on the top shelf. I move slowly as if rushing will somehow offend the silence. The ring is gone. The velvet cloth, the deep navy one with the stitched white daisies from our trip through Utah, that's gone too. I don't speak, I just move. Down the stairs. One sock on hair unbrushed my heart, barely registering what's happened, but my feet already knowing. I find her in the kitchen. My mother, her hands wrapped around a mug of black coffee like she owns the morning. She's flipping through a magazine she won't remember 10 minutes from now. Her hair is still curled from Sunday service. The house smells like citrus cleaner and entitlement. Morning, she says, doesn't look up. Mom, I say, voice barely rising, do you know where my ring is? She lifts her eyes to mine, blinking like I've asked about the thermostat. What ring? I pause, breathe, try again. Reed's ring, the one he gave me. Oh, she takes a sip. That, we sold it. The words are weightless, coming from her. She says them like she's noting a shift in the weather, like it was clutter, not memory. I just stare. She flips another page. Kaylee needed help with her retreat, she adds. Spiritual healing. It's expensive. You weren't wearing it anyway. I feel something inside me tighten, not in panic, but in quiet disbelief. A sharp kind of cold, like ice, blooming behind my ribs. I speak slowly. You sold it? Yes, she says, still not meeting my eyes. Your father handled the logistics. She's in Bali now. It's a place for women to release trauma, a very powerful thing. I don't answer, not yet. Behind me, I hear his voice. You hadn't touched it in months, my father says, emerging from the hallway with a paper in hand, and that same look he's always worn. Like life is something happening around him, not to him. You sold something that wasn't yours, I say. My voice is sharper now, but not loud. Dad shrugs. Technically. No, I cut in. That ring was mine. He designed it with me. We picked the stone together. He engraved it. Mom lets out a soft sigh like I've asked for too much. It's not like you're still getting married, she says. The sentence lands like a slap made of linen, quiet but suffocating. He's dead, I say, not forgotten. My voice catches on the last word. She stirs her coffee again like that ends it. Kaylee's finding herself, she says. That retreat could change her life. Then maybe she should have sold something of hers, I whisper. She doesn't have anything like that, Dad mutters. And you weren't using it. I step back. Every inch between us now feels like a canyon. They didn't just sell a ring. They sold the last part of him I had left. I turn, go back up the stairs. My hand trembles slightly on the railing, but I keep walking. In the drawer, the one I opened earlier, I notice something folded in the corner. I hadn't seen it before. It's the cloth, empty now. Navy velvet, white-stitched daisies, limp without the weight it once held. I sit on the floor and place it in my lap. My fingers trace the pattern. Each daisy reminds me of that field behind the motel in Utah where we stopped when the air was so dry our lips cracked and he made up a song about hydration just to make me laugh. The cloth still smells like him. I sit there quiet. Outside the window, the sky is a pale, indifferent blue, clouds drifting like they have somewhere better to be. My voice comes out low, steady. They didn't just sell a ring, I say to the silence. They sold what was left of me. I don't move for a long time. I just sit there with a piece of velvet in my hands, the kind stitched for memory, not money. And it's not until the sun shifts and the light falls across the empty drawer that I realize it's not about what they took. It's about how easily they believed it wasn't mine, and how much more they think they can take, now that he's not here to stop them. It's been 2 days since they told me. 48 hours since my mother looked me in the face and said, "We sold it," like she was giving away an old coat I never wore. Since my father folded his arms and added, "You weren't using it." Like the absence of a ring on my hand meant the absence of a story, the absence of love, of grief. I haven't left the apartment. I've eaten crackers and drank stale water and watched the light shift across the walls in slow, indifferent arcs. I haven't touched my phone much either. I was afraid of what might be there, of what wouldn't. But this morning I turn it on. Not because I want to, because I'm tired of hiding. The screen lights up and the first thing I see is her face. Kaylee. Sitting cross-legged on a wooden deck in Bali, hair in loose waves, the garland of marigolds around her neck still wet from the morning offering. Sunlight filters behind her like she arranged it, eyes closed, hands pressed gently at her chest like a prayer she's memorized but doesn't mean. The caption reads, "Healing is expensive, but so worth it. Grateful to my incredible family for believing in my journey." There's a heart emoji and a lotus. The comments are flooding in. "You're glowing. This is the transformation I needed to see today. You inspire me to choose light." I scroll. Photo after photo. She's doing yoga in a linen two-piece, holding a smoothie bowl like it's sacred, posting mantras in gold font over soft pastel skies. A different version of herself, reborn, reframed, repackaged. Not once does she say where the money came from. Not once does she mention Reed. Not once does she say my name. My thumb hovers over the screen. I don't know why I do it, but I type something. Short, barely a breath. Hope the healing was worth it. I paid for it. I hit post. The comment appears for maybe 10 minutes. Then it disappears. Deleted. No reply, no message. Just gone, like me apparently. My phone buzzes not long after, a text from Mom. "Let your sister have this moment. Don't start drama." Drama. That's what they call it now. Not betrayal, not silence, not theft. Just drama. I don't write back. I don't trust what I'd say. Instead, I scroll back through Kaylee's feed, through the stories she's tagged in reposted by yoga brands and wellness retreats. I see her smiling on a cliffside, arms stretched wide, a drone shot spinning above rice fields as she twirls in slow motion. She's glowing, they say. I can't cry. That's the part that scares me. There's no sadness left, just a kind of stunned emptiness that settles behind the eyes and presses down like a hand on your chest. She used Reed's ring money. She used him. To post captions about growth, to buy herself praise from strangers, to create a version of herself scrubbed clean of every consequence. And the world claps. I scroll further, a feature in a small wellness blog. The headline makes my throat tighten. From grief to glow, Kaylee Morgan's journey into rebirth. There's a paragraph about overcoming generational dysfunction, another about choosing the hard path of self-love. There's even a nod to her family's support through difficult transitions. I read each word like a stone sinking. There's a photo at the end of the piece. She's holding a white crystal and smiling. Reed is never mentioned. Not even once. No one knows that while she was stretching into sunset, I was lying on the floor of the bedroom we used to share during holidays. The bed I bought after Reed died was too big for one person, they said. My parents gave it away without asking, said it didn't make sense for me to keep it. The replacement was an air mattress that deflates overnight. I haven't complained once. I look back at the screen. Kaylee is radiant in every photo. Carefully lit, artfully styled, softly edited. A perfect canvas of redemption. I remember her when we were kids, the tantrums, the slammed doors, how Mom would sigh and turn to me and say, "Grace, you're the strong one. Help me keep the peace." That was always the role, wasn't it? Not the favorite, not the star, the stabilizer. Even Reed used to say, "You don't always have to hold the house together while it's burning." But maybe I didn't hold it well enough. Because now they're dancing in the flames. And I'm the ashes. At around 8, I finally dress and step outside. The air bites a little sharper than it did yesterday. I drive to the cemetery. The gravel crunches under my tires as I park. I carry nothing but my phone and the ache that settled deep enough to feel like bone. I find Reed's stone, clean, simple, still mine in a way. I don't kneel, I just stand. "They used your ring," I whisper. "They sold it so she could post gratitude quotes in Bali." The wind moves slowly through the trees behind me. The dried leaves shift quiet and brittle. I think something in me cracks a little more. I go home, sit on the floor. My phone lights up again. A news story. Kaylee's in a silk wrap, sitting cross-legged in some airy suite. Her voice is syrup sweet. "Forgiveness is powerful," she says to the camera. "Even when people lash out, I rise above. I understand it's just their pain talking." That one lands like a punch to the ribs. It was about me. The deleted comment. The cloth. The ring. The fact that I still haven't said her name aloud since this started. She's turning my silence into a plot twist. And people are clapping. I take a screenshot. Then another. Then I do something I've never done before. I open a folder on my laptop and name it Truth. Inside, I paste the screenshot. And in the bottom drawer of my desk, I tuck the navy cloth Reed gave me. I wrap it around the USB. Not to protect it, but to remember. They can twist the story all they want. But I won't forget. Not this time. I haven't left the apartment again. The world outside is still moving cars humming down Spear Boulevard, birds lining the rail outside my window, but I feel locked in place, like the floor has hardened around me. The cloth is still on my desk, folded neatly beside the USB. I haven't touched it since I tucked it away 2 days ago, but today I reach for it. Maybe to remember, maybe to see if the weight of it has changed now that the ring is gone. It hasn't. It's soft between my fingers, worn smooth at the edges. The embroidered daisies along the border are slightly faded now, but each stitch is still there. Still him. The cloth still smells faintly like Reed, that sandalwood and clean cotton blend he used to keep in the glove box of his car because he liked how it lingered on his sleeves. It's barely there now, just a whisper clinging to the velvet, but I can still find it if I breathe in slowly. I sit at my desk and close my eyes, and like always, the past comes in waves. The morning he died started quietly. It was cold, mid-March. He left the apartment before I woke up, but he'd kissed my forehead and whispered something about picking up breakfast. I only half heard it. I stayed in bed a little longer. The curtains were still drawn. The heater made that same soft clicking sound it always made before the warmth kicked in. I remember texting him around 8:40. Just a stupid casual thing. Bring the coffee strong this time. I've got calls. He never answered. At 9:13, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. A woman's voice, calm but practiced. "Are you Grace Chandler?" I was. "There's been an incident near Pine and Press Cafe," she said. "Your number was listed as the emergency contact." That phrase, emergency contact, it made my stomach twist even before she explained what happened. He had collapsed near the cafe steps, just dropped. A spontaneous arterial rupture, they said later. A freak occurrence. He died within minutes. They said he hadn't been in pain. That didn't help. It still doesn't. The paramedics found a small box in his coat pocket. It was wrapped in the daisy cloth, the one he'd stitched for me the year before after we drove through Utah and got caught in a sudden storm pulling over at a rundown motel outside Zion. There was a field behind that motel. Wild daisies everywhere, tall and unruly and beautiful. We ran through them barefoot. He said they reminded him of me. That night, he sketched out a ring design on a napkin, said one day we'd have something permanent, something wild and beautiful, and ours. Months later, he gave me the cloth first. Said the ring would come after. I'm not proposing again yet, he'd told me, but this time when I do, it's going to feel different, like we've lived enough to know it's real. That was Reed. Sentimental but with timing. The ring arrived 3 weeks before he died. He hadn't shown it to me yet, said he wanted the right moment. After he passed, his mother gave it to me. I think he wanted you to have it no matter what she said. The band was platinum, simple, but the engraving inside read, "Still you." I held that box every night for the first 3 months. I didn't wear it, not always, but I kept it close. It was proof that he had loved me, that we had been planning a future, that I hadn't imagined what we were. And now that's gone. I unfold the cloth across my lap. It lies there like a prayer someone forgot how to finish. The weight it used to hold is missing, but I can still feel the echo of it like a handprint pressed into memory. I reach into the back of the desk drawer and pull out the sketch napkin. The edges are creased from years of folding, but the ink is still legible. He'd drawn a ring with a small daisy motif engraved beneath the stone. Said it was for luck. Said even when things got heavy, we'd have something simple to look at. I run my fingers across the paper. How do you grieve the theft of something you already lost? How do you explain to people that a ring isn't just metal and stone, it's language? It's a frozen moment that says, this was real. My parents didn't see that. Kaylee didn't see that. Or maybe they did. Maybe that's why it was so easy for them to take it, because they knew exactly what it meant and decided it didn't matter. You weren't wearing it. You weren't using it. Like love has a shelf life, like grief has an expiration date. I pressed the cloth to my face. Still him. Still us. Still here. I sit on the floor back against the wall, knees drawn up, velvet pressed to my chest. I let the silence wrap around me. It's familiar now, not hostile, just honest. For the first time in months, I speak out loud. I miss you. It's quiet, almost shy. But the words feel full in my mouth. I miss how you remembered to buy my favorite kind of bread, even when I forgot it existed. I miss your voice when it dropped an octave just before you said something serious. I miss having someone who never asked me to shrink. I swallow. They sold it, I whisper. The ring. They used it for Kaylee's retreat. I close my eyes. I'm sorry. I sit like that for a long time until the light shifts again across the floor. Until the memory quiets and the room feels like mine again. The cloth is still in my lap. It smells like sandalwood. It smells like spring in Utah. It smells like a future I didn't get. But it's still mine. Even if they think it wasn't. Even if they gave it away. Even if they never asked. What's left isn't nothing. It's the part of me they didn't manage to erase. The part he left behind. Still here. The air in my apartment has gone still again, but not from grief this time. It's a different kind of quiet. The kind that settles just before the work begins. A week has passed since I learned they sold the ring, since I opened the drawer and found the velvet cloth folded like a discarded secret, since Kaylee turned my silence into content and called it forgiveness. I haven't said much, haven't responded, I haven't posted, I haven't called. But I've been collecting. It started with the receipts. I pulled out the folder from the file cabinet under my desk, the one labeled Estate, RM. Reed was always meticulous with paperwork. He backed everything up twice, one digital, one hard copy. I used to tease him about it. Now I'm grateful. Inside the folder, I find the original appraisal document. It's dated 6 months before he died. The valuation stamped in neat black ink, 589 Surzos Dao. A custom-cut diamond set in a platinum band engraved with the words, "Still you." Next to it, I find the email thread between Reed and an independent jeweler in Boulder. They'd been corresponding for almost a year before he had the ring made. In one of the messages he'd written, "I want it to feel like memory, nothing flashy, just solid, something that holds grief and love in equal measure." I print it. I print everything. The emails, the receipts, a copy of the appraisal, even the email Reed's mother sent me just days after the funeral. The subject line still makes my chest tighten. He would have wanted you to keep it. The body of the message is brief, typed in her small, clean style. "Dear Grace, thank you for being everything to him. I know this ring was meant for a moment you never got, but I believe it still belongs to you. He loved you. That doesn't vanish. Marjorie Morgan." It's signed, printed, and included with a notarized affidavit she attached later, confirming that the item was gifted to me not as inheritance, but as legacy. I save all of it into a new folder on my computer and label it Truth. Not for drama, not for spectacle. For memory, for protection. For what happens when people try to rewrite you out of your own life. I spend the next few days scanning every document, naming each file with dates and timestamps. I back it up to 2 drives, one I keep in my purse and one I lock in the small safe Reed installed beneath the floorboard before he passed. He was always better at imagining worst-case scenarios. I used to laugh about that, but here I am grateful again. The living room becomes a quiet command center. My tea goes cold forgotten on the table. Pages stack in neat piles. The scanner hums. Each document clicks into digital form, one after the next. I move like someone brushing dust from a relic, slow, careful, reverent. One afternoon, as I organize the legal documents, I get a message from a friend I haven't spoken to in months. "Hey, thought you should hear this." Attached is a link to Kaylee's new podcast episode. I hesitate. Then I plug in my headphones and press play. The intro music is soft ambient dripping with curated calm. Kaylee's voice follows low, honeyed, polished, like she's reading a script someone else wrote for her. Welcome back to Soul Mirror. Today I want to talk about letting go of the symbols that keep us anchored to past pain. Sometimes we inherit things, objects, roles, relationships that don't serve who we're becoming. She pauses, takes a sip of something. When I left for Bali, I had to confront the emotional debt I'd been carrying, things that belonged to grief, not growth. I had to let go of what I thought was sacred, even rings. They're just objects soaked in other people's expectations. My hand still on the keyboard. She doesn't name me. She doesn't have to. She's talking about me, I whisper. I rewind the clip. Listen again. Her voice curls around each word like she's floating above the hurt untouchable. I open a new folder. Save the episode. Clip the segment. Timestamp it. Archive it with a screenshot of the podcast title description and host name. I save the quote verbatim in a document labeled Audio Quotes, Kaylee M. Later that night, I open the safe. I take out the USB where I've been backing everything up and wrap it carefully in the velvet cloth. Not to protect it, but to remember what was lost and who took it without blinking. I place it in my bag just under my wallet. There's still no confrontation. Still no apology. But I've stopped hoping for that. Instead, I begin to list every verifiable moment of the last 2 years tied to the ring, its existence, its meaning, its movement. I create a timeline that includes Reed's emails, the appraisal, the ring's photos, and the legal inheritance note from my grandmother that lists jewelry items and personally meaningful artifacts as my designated share. My mother had forgotten that will existed. Or maybe she remembered and didn't care. I pull it from the fireproof envelope at the back of my closet. It's faded slightly, but my name is there. Page 2, line 17. all personal jewelry of the late Irene Chandler to be passed to her granddaughter Grace Chandler for reasons expressed privately to the family in 2018. I remember that conversation. It wasn't warm, but it was clear. My grandmother had seen how things worked in our family, who took up space, who was asked to keep shrinking. She told me in her blunt way, "They'll never give you credit, Grace, so protect what's already yours." I add the will to the file. Later, I sit at the kitchen table and print a copy of the folder's index. It runs 2 pages long now, titled lines like appraisal, Langford and Dunn Morgan email, 917.20, Marjorie affidavit Kaylee quote, da MP3 and inheritance clause, Irene C. It isn't vengeance. It's clarity. It's knowing that next time someone calls me dramatic, I'll have more than silence. I'll have proof. When I finally stand, stretch, and close my laptop, I realize something strange. I'm breathing easier. It's not peace. Not yet. But it's the first time I felt like myself again. Not the grieving woman, not the erased one. Just Grace. Still standing. Still here. The sun is just beginning to lower behind the hills when I arrive at the Meadowbrook Event Center. Napa's early spring casts a soft gold over everything vineyard shadows, long air cooled to that perfect between-seasons chill. I step out of the car alone, my black dress simple and unadorned. Nothing flashy, no sparkle, just presence. The parking lot is already half full. I check in quietly at the side entrance, bypassing the welcome table where clusters of guests are picking up badges and sipping from tall glasses of citrus-infused water. No one greets me by name. That's intentional. The foundation name on the invite isn't mine. It's the one I registered 6 months ago, the Langford Initiative, after Reed's middle name. It was always the one he signed with when he was being serious. R. Langford Morgan. Sounds like someone who builds things he once said. Someone you can trust. I walk into the venue and breathe it in. The room is wide and elegant walls lit in soft ivory tones. Tables wrapped in slate-gray linens. White daisies float in shallow bowls of water at the center of each table. My touch. My nod. A quiet detail no one else would think twice about. I settle into a seat in the back corner, the kind of seat you choose when you're not trying to be seen but you want to see everything. Across the room I spot her. Kaylee. She's just stepped into the main hall flanked by my mother and a woman I don't recognize. Her dress is floor-length ivory silk draped just enough to look effortless. Her hair is styled in soft curls. I hear someone whisper, "She looks like a movie star," and I don't disagree. She walks like someone who's expecting applause before she speaks. My mother beams beside her, adjusting a strand of hair on Kaylee's shoulder like she's fixing the lighting on a still life. "You deserve this, darling," she says loud enough for the champagne table to hear. They glide past me. Neither of them notices me. Perfect. Dinner is served. The wine flows. Chatter rises and falls in warm waves. On the screen behind the stage, a slideshow loops quietly photos of women, brief captions about empowerment, resilience, leadership. Most guests have no idea who funded this. That's the point. I'm not here for recognition. I'm here to rewrite what was stolen. Eventually, the lights dim. A woman from the hosting organization steps up to the podium. She welcomes everyone, thanks donors, applauds the event's mission. Then she smiles and leans into the mic. And now she says our surprise guest speaker, someone whose journey has moved thousands. Please welcome Kaylee Morgan. The audience claps, some cheer. I stay still. Kaylee steps onto the stage with practiced grace. She places her notes on the podium, then lifts her chin and smiles at the room. She begins. Grief, she says, is a journey, but some people wear it like a badge they refuse to take off. She pauses. The audience quiets, listening. I've learned, she continues, that healing isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing not to be defined by what hurt you. It's about reclaiming who you are underneath the pain. Applause begins to build. She goes on, fluid, charismatic, not a word out of place. Tonight, I want to talk about letting go. About choosing to rise even when people want to pull you back into the past. I had to release things that no longer served me. Objects, expectations, family wounds. She smiles softly. I chose light. That's the last thing she says before the screen behind her flickers. The applause dies instantly. The screen dims to black. A single line appears in white. In memory of Reed Langford Morgan. There's a ripple in the room, some shift in posture, breath held. Kaylee turns to look, eyes confused. The video begins. I appear on screen sitting in a quiet room. The background is plain, a single daisy and a glass jar on the table behind me. My voice is calm. My hands are folded. My name is Grace Chandler, I say. You don't know me, and that's fine. I'm not here for applause. I look directly at the camera. 2 years ago, I lost the person I loved most. We had planned a life, a future, a quiet one with days filled by small things. One of the last things we created together was a ring, a symbol of that future. It wasn't just jewelry. It was a memory made permanent, a story in metal. The audience is silent now. That ring was taken from me, sold, without my consent. It was used to fund someone else's rebirth, to support a public transformation built on a private grief. I pause, not for effect, for breath. I say this not to shame, but because truth deserves to exist in the room. The screen fades to a photo Reed and me smiling under a tree, my hand in his, the daisy field behind us. Then a final line of text. Reclaiming what was always yours isn't selfish, it's survival. The screen goes black. No autre music, no applause. Just silence. I glance at the stage. Kaylee hasn't moved. Her smile is frozen. My mother stands at the foot of the stage, one hand on her chest as if someone just turned the lights off in her house. People are whispering now. I rise quietly from my seat. A woman near me leans over and says under her breath, "That was her." Another follows, "She funded this." I don't respond. I walk toward the exit, slow and steady. Not triumphant. Just done. Outside, the evening is cool, the sky deepening into blue. The air smells faintly of wisteria. I pause beneath the portico, then turn and walk toward my car. I hear no one call my name, and for the first time in a long while, that feels like peace. The morning after the gala, I wake to a phone already vibrating. Notifications stack one after the next, my screen a blur of pings and previews. Instagram, texts, mentions. A message from a college roommate I haven't heard from in 5 years. I let it ring, let it buzz. I don't touch it for a while. I brew tea, open a window, let the cool air in. Only when the kettle has gone quiet do I check. The first video is already everywhere. Kaylee framed in soft lighting, seated cross-legged on what looks like her balcony. Her voice is trembling, her eyes wet. The caption reads, "I was ambushed." It was supposed to be a night about empowerment, she says, her voice quivering just enough to pass. But some people, they can't stand seeing you grow, even if you've tried to include them, even if you've forgiven. She dabs a tissue at her cheek. I've tried so hard to be the bigger person, but the pain I felt last night, I can't even explain it. To be blindsided, humiliated by your own sister. Pause for effect. Then I only ever wanted peace. There are thousands of views already, comments flowing in 2 streams. Kaylee, I'm so sorry this happened to you. You're light and grace. She's toxic. Always has been. You handled it beautifully. And then, wait, wasn't that her event? Why didn't Kaylee mention the ring? Why would she pretend she didn't know? Those ones are quieter, less liked, but they're there. I don't respond. Instead, I take a screenshot, then another. I open the truth folder on my computer and drag them in. I keep scrolling. A smaller blog picks up the story that afternoon. One of those lifestyle sites Kaylee once did a sponsored post for. The headline is familiar, the kind that's been written before. Resilience coach faces family sabotage at Empowerment Gala. The article is generic, surface level, pulls quotes directly from Kaylee's video and doesn't fact-check a single one. I save it anyway. Timestamp, source, archive. My mother texts just after noon. Grace, I can't believe you'd go so low. You ruined her moment, after everything we've done for you. Then another minutes later. What do you want from us? Is this really about the ring? No mention of Reed. No apology. Only blame shaped to fit their comfort. I don't reply. I sit at the desk and begin sorting files. I upload the gala recording, the official version, not Kaylee's filtered tears. I log the donation receipts that funded the event, each floral arrangement, the venue deposit, the speaker's travel accommodations, all paid for under the Langford Initiative, all documented. Reed's name is in every line. I check the backup drive and make sure the files mirror perfectly. By late afternoon, Kaylee posts again. Another video, this time more polished, less raw. She switched from crying to explaining, framing. She talks about how women are often misunderstood when they walk in their power. She uses phrases like narrative distortion and emotional manipulation, words she once read in a psychology book and filed away for brand purposes. She's weaponizing grief, Kaylee says. That part gets clipped and reposted. It lands on Twitter, on TikTok. Some believe her. Some don't. I scroll without reacting. What strikes me isn't the spin, it's how familiar the pattern feels. The need to remain the center of the story, even if it means rewriting the truth, especially then. I open my email and write a message to Reed's parents. Subject line gala. I don't say much. Just attach a copy of the program, the video message I recorded, and a note at the bottom. I thought you should know he was honored. Quietly, truthfully. No one clapped, but they listened. I seal a hard copy into a thick envelope and walk it down to the mailbox. The air outside is clear, brisk. The wind smells faintly of citrus from the neighbor's tree. The world hasn't ended, it's just turned. When I come back upstairs, my phone lights up with another message. Kaylee again. Not public this time. Just one line. You're a cancer to this family. No greeting, no punctuation. Just her breaking the silence she once begged me to keep. I take a breath. Then I archive it too. By nightfall, a few private messages slip in that feel different. A woman from the university library, a past co-worker from Reed's old firm, even the barista from the cafe we used to go to Saturday mornings. I saw it. I remember the ring. I remember how he looked at you. Thank you for telling the truth. She's not the only one with a voice. I save those too. Not because I need validation. Because they remind me the truth still echoes even when someone's trying to shout over it. Later, I sit at my desk and open the waveform from Kaylee's podcast, the one she recorded just before Bali. The one where she said, "Sometimes you have to let go of rings soaked in trauma." I mark the timestamp, label the clip, drag it into the archive. That's all I do. No posts, no messages. Just the quiet task of refusing to disappear. I turn off my phone. Pour a glass of water. Open the window one last time. And let the night breathe back in. The sky is overcast as I drive. Denver feels colder than usual this morning. Clouds stitched low horizon blurred. I keep both hands on the wheel, driving slower than I need to. Not because I'm nervous. Because I want to remember this part clearly. Not the conversation. Just the leaving. The house comes into view just as I left it. Neatly trimmed hedges. That same blue front door with the worn brass knob. It still smells faintly like lemon cleaner and potpourri from the vents. The scent hits before the door even shuts behind me. I step inside without ringing. I don't knock anymore. I've earned the right to pass through this threshold once more, without permission, without explanation. Kaylee is in the living room, seated on the edge of the couch with her legs crossed, phone resting loosely in one hand. She doesn't look up right away, as if she didn't expect me to actually show. She does eventually. She sets the phone down. "You look tired," she says carefully. I am, I answer. She nods like that was the answer she rehearsed for. "I didn't think you'd come," she says. I say nothing, just step further into the room and place the small box I brought with me onto the coffee table. It's plain, unwrapped, the lid already loose. Inside are the pearl drop earrings my mother had given me weeks ago, claiming they were from my grandmother. I know better now. They were a distraction, a replacement, a gesture meant to be just enough to make me stop asking questions. On top of the earrings, folded neatly, is the velvet cloth, the one that used to hold the ring. And beneath that flat printed no embellishments is a transcript. The podcast segment, Kaylee's voice in ink. She finally notices it. "What's this?" she asks, reaching forward. I don't let her pick it up. I place my hand over the box gently and look at her. "I'm not here to fight." Kaylee sits back slowly, her mouth parting slightly. "I'm not here to destroy you," I say, voice even, "and I'm not here to beg. I just wanted to return what doesn't belong to me." "I never meant to hurt you," she says, her voice thinner than I expected. "You know that, right?" I tilt my head. "You deleted my comment." She shifts. "I didn't want people to get confused." "You told strangers I ambushed you." I was overwhelmed. "You said I was toxic." She opens her mouth, closes it, tries again. "I was scared, Grace. You put me on display in front of everyone. I didn't know you were going to play that video." "You didn't know," I repeat calmly. "But you knew where the ring came from. You knew you didn't ask for it. You knew you erased him and me from every version of your story. And you did it anyway." Her mouth tenses at the corners. She sits up straighter. "I never wanted a fight," she says. "You made this a war." I didn't make it anything, I say. I just stopped pretending. We fall quiet. The living room is exactly as I remember it. Muted colors, framed family photos, the ticking clock above the fireplace. None of them show Reed. None of them show me after 25. "You don't have to do this," Callie says after a long moment. "You don't have to keep making it a thing." "It is a thing," I say. My voice isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. Just because you narrate it differently doesn't mean it stops being true. She looks at the box again. Her eyes flicker to the cloth at the edges of the transcript visible underneath. "I don't want to be enemies," she says. "We aren't," I tell her. "You're just not my story anymore." A sound behind us. The soft squeak of floorboards. I turn slightly. My mother is in the hallway, standing partway behind the doorframe. Her arms are folded, eyes unreadable. She doesn't speak, just watches. The same way she always has one step removed, waiting to see who'll yield first. I offer her nothing. I turn back to Kaylee. "I'm not here to shame you," I say. "I'm here to mark the line. Not because I want to punish you, but because I want to remember what really happened. For myself." Kaylee doesn't respond. I push the box gently across the table. She doesn't reach for it. Behind me, my mother shifts her weight, but still doesn't speak. Good. Let the silence be hers to hold. I straighten, smooth my coat, and take one last look around the room. It hasn't changed, but I have. I take a slow breath, let it fill my chest, and start walking toward the front door. Kaylee doesn't follow. Neither does my mother. They stay in the space they made. I leave it. As I step outside, the wind brushes my cheek, carrying a breath of lilac from somewhere up the block. The sky is still gray, but it's starting to brighten at the edges as if the sun is working up the courage to show itself. I don't feel victorious. I don't feel vindicated. I feel finished. And that's more than enough. The light in Napa is different. It doesn't press, it lingers. Soft along the tops of the hills, gentle across the hardwood floors of the studio, I now call mine. It took me months to find the space tucked between a bookbindery and a florist who still wraps everything in brown paper and string. The sign above the door is quiet, etched in brass. Langford and June. Reed's middle name. My grandmother's first. Two people who taught me that silence doesn't mean absence and that love, real love, doesn't have to raise its voice to be heard. I open the door each morning with both hands as if to receive something, not claim it. The space is small. 2 long tables, a wall of tools hung in perfect lines, drawers labeled with gemstones, sketches, and settings. The scent of metal and polish mixes with lavender from the florist next door. Some days she slips me a bundle just because. I keep the lights low, natural light does the rest. It feels like the opposite of everything I left behind. This isn't a place built on noise, it's built on care. I design rings now, not flashy, oversized ones meant to declare, but ones meant to hold something tender, a story, a breath, a memory someone doesn't want the world to forget. A woman came in last week, mid-50s, recently widowed. She wanted a band made from her husband's cufflinks. I melted them down myself and shaped the metal into a simple curve with soft edges. On the inside, I engraved a single word, still. She cried when I handed it to her. Another customer brought a brooch from the 1940s, cracked at the clasp, missing a stone. She didn't want it repaired, she wanted it transformed to something she could wear daily close to the skin. These people don't come for trends, they come for permanence, for quiet reminders that something once mattered. And that it still does. Near the back of the studio is a glass display case. Inside, nothing glitters. No gold, no diamonds, just fabric. A piece of navy velvet. Folded neatly, edges frayed slightly from age, white daisies stitched at the corners. There's a plaque beneath it, small and brushed steel. This piece is not for sale, it cost everything to make. Most people don't ask, but those who do always ask gently. I tell them it once held a ring, a promise, a version of the future that never quite arrived but still taught me how to live. I don't tell them everything, just enough. That cloth doesn't anchor me anymore, but it reminds me where I started. Some mornings before opening, I run my fingers over the stitches. Still intact, still mine. The daisy has become something of a signature in my work, not always visible. Sometimes it's just a small engraving under the band or a tiny motif along the setting's inner curve. A quiet marker, a nod to where beauty can bloom even in the dustiest parts of memory. I work alone most days, but not always. A young apprentice named Eva comes in twice a week. She's careful with her hands and even more careful with her words. I like that about her. She once asked me why I didn't open the studio under my full name. Because this wasn't just mine to build, I said. It came from pieces left behind. She nodded like she understood. I think she does. Business is steady, modest, enough. I don't need more than that. I keep a ledger in a worn leather notebook, not just of sales or commissions, but of names. People who've come in carrying the weight of something unspeakable and left holding something solid. It's not healing exactly, but it's something close. One day someone will ask where I went after all of it. The gala, the fallout, the silence from my family that followed, the messages that stopped, the tension that never quite resolved. And I'll tell them this. I didn't disappear. I didn't fight. I just went and built something they couldn't touch. No plaque, no headlines, just a space shaped by memory, lined with meaning and lit with the kind of daylight that forgives everything except forgetting. Somewhere I imagine Kaylee is still talking, still posing, still curating a life designed for applause, and maybe people are still clapping. But I'm not listening anymore. Not out of anger. Just peace. Outside, the breeze carries the scent of rosemary and dust from the hills. I step out front and flip the sign to open, the same way I do every morning, the same way I plan to keep doing. Later today, I'll sketch a new design for a woman whose daughter survived an accident. She wants something solid but soft. I already know it'll have a daisy tucked into the base where only she can see it. Because some stories aren't for display. They're for remembering. The last customer leaves just before sunset. I walk the length of the studio one more time, fingertips grazing each surface. I pause at the framed cloth, the navy velvet, the daisy stitches. The thing that once held a symbol of love now holds something deeper. Proof that I didn't break. I just changed shape. The light slips low through the windows, turning everything gold. And for the first time in a long time, I realize I don't feel the need to explain anything to anyone. I lock the door behind me. The keys feel warm in my palm. I walk to the edge of the path, take a slow breath, and let it go. Grace's story is a quiet testament to what happens when silence is no longer mistaken for surrender. In losing what was most precious, she was forced to confront not only betrayal, but the lifelong pattern of being unseen. And instead of fighting to be heard, she chose something stronger: clarity. With each quiet decision, she reclaimed what others tried to erase: her memory, her voice, her worth. She didn't shout. She didn't retaliate. She built something steady, shaped by grief, but not consumed by it. This is what real strength looks like, not in confrontation, but in the calm refusal to disappear. If this story moved, you take a moment to reflect, share your thoughts in the comments. Like this video or subscribe for more stories of truth resilience and the power of choosing yourself. Because sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones no one saw coming.